3, 4.
So that we're all on time for our fucking thing. Okay.
Yes.
5, 4,
Speaking
3, 2, 1. Wildly uninteresting podcast. Welcome to episode 44. 44
This
of
is
the
44,
podcast.
yeah.
This is 44. We almost have as many videos as we do
Present.
people, but I couldn't get 3 more
Like
people
on the
to
planet?
subscribe. No,
Oh,
on
okay.
YouTube. Yeah. But
On the planet.
welcome to the
Population
fucking
really
show.
went
I'm gonna hit
down.
this one more time.
The motherfucking show. Everybody jacked?
To the show, yes.
Well, welcome.
Everybody
to the
should be jacked. As our guest today, we have the distinguished Dr. Sex Woods.
Dr. Sex
Welcome,
Woods.
everybody.
Hey,
Back up.
hey.
Thank you.
Best honorary doctor to my college. If you took ever.
Clearly smarter than the dummies in this podcast. We're happy to have someone with
Yeah.
brains.
Yeah, man, I feel like when I was talking about growing shiitake mushrooms, I was like far, what is that called? Unsuperior? What's the word?
Insecure.
Insecure. I'm definitely insecure.
Inferior.
Inferior. There you go.
Ah,
I'll take that.
inferior.
I like unsuperior, though, because it implies that you were superior at one time.
Yeah.
And
but I
lost
And
it.
now you're just not.
Damn it, man. Yeah, but definitely smarter than the 3 of us put together, probably. How's
Yeah.
How's Seth's life doing? Seth, Sex
What's
is
that
life.
like?
I'm
Dr.
doing
Sex
well.
Woods.
I'm doing well. Working on some cool stuff.
On
And,
some shit.
yeah, and getting my diabetes down and lower cholesterol. And
Yeah.
Getting healthy.
What about them quail?
Quail.
a lot of them are
Whoa.
dead now. So
Well, on the way, because, as you all know, I was listening to Brand New.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's all like, I see God in birds and Satan in long words. And I thought, do you think you're killing God whenever you kill a quail to eat it?
kind of.
Yes.
And that's what goes back to the animal soul argument you're all having.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you think we all have a soul,
Right?
you can see the intelligent design in our eyes when we die. Because I've seen plenty of people die.
Yeah.
And if you cut a bird's
Under
head
natural
off,
circumstances.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
no, security. You know how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Dangerous
basically,
game.
you see people die and they have a little twinkle in their eye and they gasp for breath. When you cut a bird's head off or you crush it, they have the same exact look. And you
Oh.
can see they have the same, basically, spirit.
Yeah.
And
So you
we
can
can
see
prove-
it leave its body.
well, not
a sense.
exactly see it, but if you measure it out, for example, they measured out back in the 1920s that a human soul weighs 2 ounces. And how they did this really horribly
Oh,
was...
I remember that.
Yeah. And yes, that's dystopia when it comes to basically proving that because there's only 18 people in the study size.
They need to do it again.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, but getting past HIPAA rights is just
A nightmare.
a nightmare.
Yeah. Plus, you'd
Yeah.
really just have to keep a bunch of dying people on a scale.
They do.
Yeah. They do.
God.
Their beds are scales.
Yeah. Here, sleep on this scale. You get a blanket and a shitty pillow.
Well, they could put all kinds of shit on it to make it comfortable. They just have to take that weight into account whenever they're measuring the weight.
But
So
see,
what is it with the weight? Like, what do
basically,
you make of it?
well, it's either that the pooling of liquids immediately gaspirate 2 ounces besides the air weight, which has been scientifically disproven, or
Yeah.
there is something tangible that leaves once someone dies.
That's awesome.
What do you think is more likely?
Probably the tangible.
Yeah.
Based on, I've seen people die and they look completely dead immediately afterwards versus living people.
Well, okay, so we have oxygen. Okay, it's necessary for everything inside of you to live. I mean, how much of that is expelled? How much does it weigh anything?
It does. It weighs exactly 4 grams for your lungful.
Okay, so that couldn't be it.
No.
No,
That would explain part of it.
part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
I assume they took that into account when doing
They didn't
it.
take it into
They didn't know shit in the 20s.
Well, they knew things, but in the 20s, you're right. Medically, they didn't even study the female anatomy properly. So,
No. I don't know that they've still done that right.
Yeah, right.
well, it's actually very hard, but yeah.
I think that's why we were watching that documentary about women really don't know themselves. it's just a stigma that has went on for so long that women haven't discovered their own self because most people don't take the time out to discover the woman.
Because all doctors are
Mainly the
men,
vulva.
and they just want to study other men.
Well, there's that. There's discrimination that way.
I don't know.
Yes.
Big gay doctor.
Big gay doctor.
Well, there is actually a very high percentage of doctors that are homosexuality. It is a 54% rate.
Really? You're just
54
making that up.
I'm not.
54% of doctors are gay.
Yeah,
I can see that.
See, the unfair
Male
can
part.
and
see
female,
that.
just across the board.
No, male doctors.
Males.
Yeah.
Do you think
Women's
that's more,
women's is only like 22%.
is that more or less than the
Still
Catholic
high.
priesthood?
Well,
Should we be more afraid of doctors?
the
or
thing is, the Catholic
clergy?
priesthood's not going to register for insurance purposes the way doctors do for their sexual partners. And since we don't have insurance information that way, we cannot
We don't
dissummarize.
know.
We don't know.
That's very interesting to me.
Yeah, that's pretty messed up.
But yeah, they were talking about how like most, not most, but a very high percentage. I think it was like 64% of women couldn't identify their anatomy when they were asked to. They had no idea. Like
Yeah.
that's fucking crazy. Like girls they don't look at themselves. They have no idea what their vaginas look like and stuff. Like it's nuts. That's fucking crazy.
To be fair, it's like with a dude, it's just, well, here's my dick, here's my balls.
Yeah,
With
done.
a chick, it's like the layers and shit.
Yeah, but we have
Yes.
layers. We have layers too. We have
Ah, we
different.
don't have layers.
We do.
Layers.
Are you a doctor?
Technically.
Oh, wait, yeah.
Doctor, yes.
All right, well, never mind.
I
I concede.
feel like I know more about the female vagina
Yeah.
than Sarah does.
Whatever.
But respectively so.
Well, I mean, whenever you have something in your mouth, it's kind of hard to not learn a little something.
What is this?
Yeah.
This is a kid
Don't
show.
know what I'm doing.
I hope not.
Children, put vagina in your mouth.
Oh shit.
It'll taste weird at first, but you'll grow to love it.
You'll love
Grow
it.
to love
Just
it.
like beer.
And you'll be a lot happier.
Yeah, man. So what all do you participate in your profession?
Well, pretty much what we do currently is we watch people not steal things. And then we walk around a building that's empty half the time.
And then
for-
whenever
for-
we look away, they steal everything.
Everything. I worked at a warehouse, we'll say, and I don't know how
Let's
anybody steals anything. I was at a game warehouse, and they would take off their boots, wand them and everything. Like, I don't know how anybody would ever steal anything out of a warehouse like that. The game warehouse was the most security I've ever seen anywhere.
Let me tell you how.
Give
Here's-
people tips.
Here we
Give
go.
some people some tips so they can do this. All right, first thing you do is you find the exit. You take off the tripper sensor. Usually, older warehouses like our warehouse, there's how many exits you just open up? There's no way there's like an alarm.
Approximately 13.
I actually was thinking there was 8, but okay.
Look, don't ask me if you want to tell me what I know,
Okay.
motherfucker.
So we'll go with 10.
We'll go
Yeah,
with 10. All right. What you do then is you carry the box back to that exit, and then you just throw it out, and then you come back after work, and then you just steal stuff. There's been like 10, 12 people have been caught that way. They don't throw it away. Or in the shoe warehouse, they change the boots out like they do in Walmart
Yeah.
with their old shoes, and then ship that off to someone who gets crappy shoes.
Damn it.
That's
I bought
insane.
speakers at Walmart,
Oh my God.
and somebody had done that. They had put these raggedy ass speakers in this box, and they sold me the speakers, and I went to put them in the truck, and I went to take them back because I was like, these aren't the fucking things. And they were like, well, it's not the same product. You're not going to get over on us. I was like, you got over on me.
You
Like,
did this.
You're the one fucking me here,
how the
buddy.
fuck did, and it was this big to do, man. I don't
Yeah.
get angry. Like, I'm one of those, like, you can solve it peacefully, and I got fucking pissed
Oh,
off.
he was
I was
furious.
like,
I hunted the manager down on Facebook. I was
a
like,
bow
this
and
is his
arrow.
fucking name if you want to find him.
speaking of which,
Yeah.
we went to Dick's Sporting Goods, and I seen they had what are they? The
Crossbow.
crossbows. And I want a crossbow so,
So bad,
now. They're like $500 or $600, but I would
No.
definitely take it.
Let me talk, bitch.
Let me tell you what you get. You go to the state fair. All right.
Yeah.
There's always a guy 2 weapon dealers. One of the 2 of them always has crossbows, and they're like $20.
Shut
Damn
up. Are they actually good?
Who needs
Yeah.
a gun when you
Have
got
you
a
bought
crossbow?
one from him?
I
before?
have like 3 of them.
Shut up, dude. You're the coolest person ever.
I want a crossbow, and I want those Dukes of Hazzard arrows that you can light on fire
Fuck
and
yes.
shoot them at people and our gasoline tanks.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be careful because we tried to hold an event. I used to work at a place called Learning Disability Association of Kentucky. It was a non-profit. And we tried to have an event where you shoot couches on fire for $10 a flaming arrow.
Yeah.
And there was liquor involved, but then the state came in and said you couldn't do it after we
fucking
started.
state.
I know. Was it Kentucky?
It was Kentucky.
I could see Indiana pulling some shit like that, but Kentucky, I
Well,
would expect. Like,
It had to do with the fumes, and the fire got way too high, and so the fire people were
Kind of
called.
getting out of control.
Yeah.
God. That's a great idea, though. I'd be so happy.
Yeah.
I know.
I'd be so drunk and broke by the end of it.
We
Give me all the arrows.
We lit and shot one of them big screen TVs, the old DLPs, the big ones.
Yeah.
And from all the plastic that was in it, the black smoke, that thick black smoke went everywhere, and it would snow down. Those little black pieces would snow down. It's crazy. It's not good for the environment.
No.
Yeah,
not
it
at all.
is. I mean,
Yeah, it
Yeah, it
is.
is. Come on.
coal ash is one of the most valuable things there is when it burns.
Yeah.
just
All
have
right,
to
you
catch
release
it.
no, you do. It decays.
Right.
It helps the atmosphere recuperate the carbon atoms, and more importantly, the dust and the ash is a good fertilizer for everything.
That's
That's all right.
awesome.
I
You grow
dig that.
you grow shiitake mushrooms. Instead of using hydrated lime to basically lime pasteurize, you can wood ash pasteurize your wood substrates.
Yeah.
Oh,
can
that's
take that.
awesome.
Well, we were talking before the
a
podcast
great
about
idea.
the
That is
fungus that
beyond
eats
me.
plastic, and I think it doesn't even it doesn't use oxygen, right, to eat the
Right.
plastic.
It doesn't need oxygen, but most it needs a little bit of oxygen, but it also breaks down most of the hydrocarbons. Like for example, this pen is made from 2 different types of plastic.
Yeah.
PPL5, which it would break down, and P2 basically, which it would not break down, but it would disintegrate it to a small enough piece that would be aerolized.
Yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
It means, for example, soil isn't exactly 100% dirt. It has these little cavities where it's air and water channels, basically.
Yeah.
That's why if you go
Is that
on
where worms breathe?
kind of, there's a bunch of they breathe for their skin, but basically,
Yeah.
if you go out to a field and it's rained a lot, and then you try to till the field, you're going to get nothing but mud, and it will ruin the field for like a couple months until you add more carbon and there are new air channels in it for roots to grow.
What the
That's
fuck?
awesome. I could just.
Do you know what the name of that fungus is? The one you asked
Eric.
last- Do you know?
The classic fungus they are trying with that is Aspergillus, and then Niger is the main culprit of that. And then there's Aspergillus spilarilus, and then there's Aspergillus tigeris, and those are the ones that are earth funguses that eat plastic. But you can modify the genes on that, and you can do any mushroom to do that. You just want fruit properly.
I got you.
Where did this interest come from? Why do you know this shit?
I am boring, and I work security, so I have a lot of free time.
Fair enough.
And shit actually stays in here. I read
Yeah.
shit all day long and nothing stays.
I know.
It sucks.
Well,
I've
the-
damaged my brain because it didn't used to be that way. I used
think,
to be
though,
able
It's
to
like
that-
throwing paper at paper.
Because we've had more free time, quote unquote free time, because I don't have to go and waste my time sitting in a
Yeah.
warehouse and then leave that warehouse and go do work. It's a lot of wasted time. Well, here I can come right back to the house and work on shit. And I found that I retain things easier, and my interests have peaked more
Yeah.
since I've been home doing my own thing, because I don't have to waste that drive time. I don't have to waste, going and sitting in an office waiting for a phone call. I can spend that downtime here and then leave from here to, you know what I mean? So I get
yeah.
more time doing the things I like reading. We picked up, 5 books since the beginning of the year?
Yeah.
So it's gotten a lot better with as far as like doing your own thing helps you retain that, but I'm still lazy when it comes to some things. Still lazy.
Yeah,
But
that happens.
There's
No.
no one lazier than me, though.
when I get shit, I always like wait and hold things off to the weekend, and then I think like that's the day I'm gonna do it, and I never do it.
No, because then it's like, oh man, it's the weekend. I don't have to do anything if I
Yeah.
don't want.
I found motivation is bullshit. Like you
It
have
is.
to force yourself to do it.
Yeah.
You got to force to do it on days that you're not off. And then when you're off, you're like, I don't think I want to cook in the lab for 6 hours today.
Right?
Yeah.
That sounds illegal.
Cooking in the lab, son.
No, we all grow fungus here, and you got to use a pressure cooker to sterilize things. So that takes time.
Yeah.
Nah,
There's a
I don't know.
there's a substantial amount. I guess after you get the hang of growing, cultivating, it's
a
easier
process.
because you can have a process. But as far as like using and looking at new cultures and stuff like that and growing new mushrooms, it's very in depth, man. I'll tell you, you kind of look at it like, I don't want to go through the fucking process. It's a long process.
It's
But-
not that bad, though. It's really simple. Basically, it breaks down to this. I boil grains, I drain grains, I put them in jars, I cook the jars. I knock them up with a culture, be it liquid culture, which is the easiest method and quickest method.
Knock them
Or
up.
Knock them up.
Knock 'em up.
Inoculated.
inoculation. Yeah.
Classy.
And then
Yeah.
you shake, you colonize. That takes 10 to 14 days. Then you put that in a substratus. Straw is the best for almost every culture.
I
Then
never
you.
considered straw.
I don't think I've ever used straw.
That's
Not
an
once.
awesome
What do you?
idea.
What are you all using?
Really, I'd just do a 50-50, and it's worked for me for years.
You just case them.
Yeah, pretty much. I just mix it all up, and then it colonizes, and then it like 10 days it takes it. But I put a little bit of brown rice flour in a 50-50 of vermiculite, and
And that doesn't contam.
Peat
What's
moss.
your bioefficiency?
I get maybe
motherfucker.
one out of every 20 tubs, maybe.
Yeah.
One out of every.
Yeah, it's really
20.
infrequent.
What is your dry weight or your wet weight proportionally to the dry
The
weight?
dry weight, I don't know. I just do like filled capacity, and I just do that. I don't really have a set amount of liquid I put in, as far as getting the moisture right. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, all right. For example, you do oats right now, right?
Yeah.
How
Or
full?
grain.
How full do you have the jar currently?
If they're getting inoculated with a master jar, it's like 3/4 the way
Yeah.
full.
Okay. Well, then for each jar, you approximately have 320 grams of oats dry. So basically, how much dry weight, how much wet weight do you get usually off your trays?
Ooh,
You know what? We've never.
I've never even paid.
Uh-uh.
I'm fucking terrible, man.
I swear we've never weighed ever.
I'd be a terrible anything, a chemist. I'd be terrible with experiments or anything. I'm just throw
well,
and
no,
go.
that's just something that we never thought about doing.
Yeah.
It's just when we put them in a container, we see, okay, well, we have this much, and we know how much by looking at it, like how long that'll last, or
I can,
What
how
we
much
can do
are
with it,
how
you
much
know.
are portobellos and shiitakes going per ounce?
You never grow portobellos. You're never going to win. You're never going to win.
Never gonna win.
It's awesome.
Is this like at the mushroom
Why is that?
contest?
Because
Like,
it is
what-
the mushroom contest. Basically, every mainstay grower grows portobellos, and those are the common mushrooms in stores. Babybellas, portobellas, cremies are all the same species, and those go from like $1 to $3 a pound retail. You
Yeah.
can't make
Damn
a
it.
profit on that because you
No.
actually
Yeah,
need a
I-
composted bed to grow them.
The ones that
Shiitakes
I buy,
go for $6 to $19 a pound,
it's like
depending if you
that
go.
much. It's $1. It's like 94 cents,
Yeah.
actually. It's less than $1.
Can you grow
a
morels
lot.
indoor?
You can, but it's a very in-depth process that I could tell you about. But you need to freeze shock them, and then you also have to use agar work because they become little balls. I'm not going to mispronounce that word, but
Just do
Do
it
it.
intentionally. Yeah.
Do
it.
it.
Truffle. Is it a truffle?
Say it.
No.
No, it's the same thing as a truffle. What
But
they're
there's a
called.
word for it.
But there's a word.
Scaramouche.
No.
Boom.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's one of those things that it needs that in its life to then spread out to its secondary form. And then you have to cold shock fruit it at 50 degrees. And only
Damn.
3 different strains are cultivatable. And natural morels, the ones you find in nature, they're the first things of spring. They pop up in the snow. Those take 2 years outdoors to grow.
God.
Damn, dude, that is crazy.
Then is it like a one-time harvest, or do they?
It's a
Do they do a
one-time
thing?
harvest because
Oh,
they
fuck
are
that.
also hosts into certain trees, usually
Yeah.
dead trees, and when the tree dies from fire or other disaster, they pop up.
Can you use them to cure anything?
Yes,
Excellent. What?
eye cancer.
What?
Really?
That what?
Which
I didn't
ones
even
are
know that
these?
was a specific cancer.
Eye cancer.
Which mushrooms are these?
Morels.
Morels.
Really? I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
I've always wondered if you could, because those are they're pretty expensive. Morels
Yeah,
are
eye
really
cancer.
expensive.
That's because you
business.
have to go hunt them most of the time. But the problem is that when you hunt them, there's always insects larvae. They're still in them. There are always problems with that. And if you buy medical mushrooms like lion's mane, or you buy reishi mushrooms, you're
Oh, yeah.
you're generally eating the mycelium. You're not even eating the fruit bodies because they
Really?
refuse to give you the fruit bodies.
Why?
So could you? So if you take your grain that has the mycelium in it, could you just take that and say like eat it for breakfast? Like I'm gonna put some honey on it and eat it, and it do anything? Help fix anything?
I mean, you could, but that would be gross and
Yeah.
horrifying.
I think the next thing that we're gonna grow is lion's mane
I don't know what my
mushroom.
first thought was. The next thing we're gonna grow is chicken skins.
Chicken skins.
Yeah.
If I could cultivate chicken skins that are already fried,
Yes.
and like, I'd be a
We're
rich
growing
man.
fried chicken skins. Fucking
like-
even better,
Yeah.
dude.
By
It's
the pound.
It's the only kind of chicken skin I
All right,
want.
so Seth, what's the science on growing fried chicken skins?
Fried chicken. It has
Well,
to be
what
fried.
you probably have to do is first start having to figure out how to grow chicken skin cells from other cell types. Usually you take a mold of a stem cell and you would cultivate that into chicken skins. Now the fried part,
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that because you'd have to grow from plant materials to
Yeah.
get different cell material. I still don't know how you'd physically get a coating on it and have it cook itself.
Could you learn
There'd have
something
to be
from
a
like
way.
tree bark?
Self-cooking
It
skins.
might make it a little harder. It would like give the effect
Oh.
of being fried, but it's
Yeah.
not really.
I mean, yeah, there's that all the time. They've been doing that with plantless meat things all the time.
Yeah. What the hell?
But that's what okay, so like I told her, if everything's a molecular structure, right, and you can synthesize anything,
Right.
you'd have to figure out what the molecular structure of fried chicken skins are,
Hell yes.
and then you would have to
First step.
synthesize. I can't talk today
I
for some
know.
reason.
Synthesize.
Got a case of the dumb.
And would it be cost effective? Because you got to remember, we can turn other metals into gold, but it's terribly cost inefficient.
Yeah. Well, we looked
What's
before
so
we
goddamn
left.
special about gold?
It bends.
Most
It has
conductive?
It has second most highest conductive, right behind beryllium.
What's beryllium?
It's an element.
Really?
The most conductive element.
Well, see, there's a meteor.
Seaborg may turn bismuth into gold by shooting electromagnets into it.
What the fuck?
There's a meteor in our an asteroid in our asteroid belt that is like 90 something percent gold. Mm-hmm. And they were like, if they could get something there to land on it and mine it and bring it back, I guarantee you they're trying to find a way to do it. But I feel like that would be dangerous because you have all the other asteroids around you. It'd be hard to land on that specific one.
Not really.
So with,
You don't think so? I think
No.
they could do the math and get it
Yeah,
right.
of course they could do the math on it, and even if they did the precise, it wouldn't be cost efficient. It costs about $90K to put 1 gram into outer space. All right, So think of
Yeah,
how much
get
it
that dress
costs
and that poop.
to get the gold, mine it, and then take it back. You'd still need equal mass from the meteorite. It would be virtually useless to do. I mean, the reason you step on colonization of certain meteorites would be to have wayward travel in between spaces. But in outer space, there's so much vast space between most meteorites. You would never hit the other ones.
That's somebody
on.
told me that if I read it somewhere that if a galaxy crashed into ours, that the percentage of something hitting us is very small.
0.002.61%.
Ain't that crazy to think
Damn.
about it? An entire galaxy crashes into yours and you don't even feel it. You're like, what is Tuesday?
Dude, that's insane.
What is Tuesday?
But it would mess up the gravitational fields that we have.
Oh yeah.
What would happen then?
We'd probably have some problems.
Could we float?
No.
Well, here's
That
the thing.
floating usually doesn't accompany problems.
I mean, define floating. If you're doing like speed, you're floating on the Earth's surface
Yeah.
right now.
Oh yeah, technically. I guess.
You know what the fuck I'm talking about. If I want to float, I don't want to just be on the earth.
Legit ass
I
floating.
want to levitate, motherfucker.
Well, see, and it's always comes down to the definition of what people think. Like, we were looking up and trying to design a tree-shaped, a tree made out of copper wire, right? With individual ends. So I don't know how to explain. I'm not going to go into
What
like a
was
bunch.
the purpose of this?
Well, it's pulling out
Together
atmospheric energy,
energy.
right? We wanted to harvest atmospheric energy, but right now it's such a low level that they can only turn an electrostatic motor, and not very fast at that.
Right.
And they're having a hard time like keeping them in capacitors and then trying to use it that way. But I feel like Tesla had it figured out in a sense, but they never allowed him to do all of his research and work that he.
Yeah.
But I feel like that there's a lot of energy around us in between the things that give your body enough energy to produce as much electricity as it does. There has to be an energy within the empty space between us. You know what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. It's called photon decay and different electron decay. And if we could actually find that everything by natural law, including quantum mechanics, everything has to decay and release energy. There is nothing that turns energy to mass. It's never gone. But we have never witnessed photon decay or electron decay in an atom,
Yeah.
where it should break off into photons and those should break off. We've never witnessed that. They've been trying to study in nanotubes for 50
Yeah.
years almost.
So do we assume that it happens?
It has to happen by natural law.
What if we just don't understand natural law?
There's that. But see, they've recently, because we all think dark matter is something that's inattainable. It is attainable.
Yeah.
But they've noticed that decay is different in dark matter in the same elements than it is light matter, which it shouldn't be. So that's where the actual energy source should come from, which is going to lead us to time travel, because if we can get photon decay, the energy on that would be so much more than the atomic bomb. Like the energy you would be able to see on photon decay, if you're able to harness that,
Yeah.
one photon decay would equal 75 hydrogen bombs.
God damn
So
it,
maybe
dude.
we don't know this stuff on purpose.
Here's
'Cause
my
maybe
fucking
people in the
point.
scientific
Maybe we
world.
do know this,
Look.
and it just hasn't been told
Here's
to
my
the
point.
general public.
Maybe
Yeah.
that
What-
too.
Yeah.
What if everything that you're taught through school, like
bullshit.
your physics and quantum physics, right? What if though? I don't think people are thinking outside of the box as much. Something as supernatural as us being born, or our universe coming to be. You know what I
Right.
mean? I think they put all these rules and regulations and guidelines in the books, and we read them, and we think that's the only way to do things. But I feel like there's a way to do. Like if you went back to thinking like a child, like I said, and
Naivete.
and not basing it all on what you've read and what you've studied, the knowledge we have right now. If you created the knowledge of creating energy from nothing, and that's even like I don't believe that. What's the law? The fucking law
Oh,
of
the secret.
I don't know,
That
man.
one?
Something about whatever. I don't know. Something about the
The
energy
attraction?
that a fucking mechanical thing can use. Like,
Potential energy versus kinetic energy.
well, I don't know what it's called.
Does that have to do
I
with
sound like a retard today. I don't know why.
Thermodynamics?
Maybe.
Does that have to do with PB&J?
Definitely
PB&J.
PB&J.
What does it rhyme with?
I sound like I sound like a
explain it though, so
a
we
child
can figure
molester.
out what. Shut up. So we can figure out what it is. I want to know.
I think he's right. I think it's thermodynamics. Like, so you can't have a perpetual motion machine that runs by itself, just off the energy that it produces, because the energy will diminish in the output. So it can't you know what I mean? You always have to be applying more
Right.
energy to the system than it uses.
But luckily, I mean, there are
The
engines.
glasses on.
Put them on.
Put them the fuck on.
You're the first guest to ever wear the glasses, so thank you.
Thank you for that.
Every time,
Dr.
you know.
Sex Woods talks to the chomo.
Okay, Chomo. So
Listen here.
when you have certain engines, the original engine was not a steam engine. It was a thermo-atmospheric engine, where you do something like ice around it, and the difference in temperature would make the gear up and down.
Right.
All right? Because of the atmospheric changes we always have, we could always take that energy. But this math that doesn't add up, based on how we know the universe, is we're taught the Big Bang theory can't be. From a scientific standpoint and math standpoint, it can't be.
Yeah, because energy from nothing, or something from nothing, right?
No, not because of that. Because of how things expand versus contracting. If, let's say you had the universe in the Big Bang, you're taught that it massive explosion, and most of the mass and everything that was outward expansion happened in the first couple seconds, and it slows down over time. So it's basically like a piece of bread with raisins in it. So things keep going further away slowly.
Yeah.
All right, when it's baking. But instead, it's like it explodes and things are getting closer together, but the universe itself is actually expanding at a much faster rate than it should be. Like expanding faster than it did a year before and the year before that.
So
And-
instead of like a freezing death of the universe, do you think it's going to be like heat death?
No, it's more if you look at the mathematical principle that basically imagine if matter basically collided together and basically produced a bubble. And there's two fabric sheets of heavy, dense mass. And they like a bed sheet with bubbles, and it's popped up in this little bubble. And the bubble keeps expanding faster because the sheets are further away and there's more energy that way. That's what the universe actually mathematically should be. But that sounds crazy.
If I had made the fucker, this is how it would be. Stupid
Oh,
math,
yes.
mother. So, I don't know. What do you think about like the membrane shit? You know, where there's like, oh, there's universes and crap, and then there are the membranes and things. Do you think that's a reality?
Yeah, there's probably
Oh,
more space.
A membrane
And how will that
around the
shit
space,
work?
around the entire universe, outer space. There's a membrane.
Well, it's kind of like the universe is in like a ball, we'll
Right.
say, and then there's the shit.
One time, I was on a massive mushroom trip. Right. It was my first one. I had taken too
Allegedly.
many. Allegedly. And I was sitting there, and within my consciousness, I felt like I was on the outside of that membrane looking in. And I've always felt the same way, that we are confined into a membrane of sorts, kind of like a human cell, like everything that, the DNA, the chromosomes, everything, the nucleus is all held in this membrane of a single human cell. Why wouldn't the universe be in a cell the same? And each individual galaxy plays a role in its production.
Interesting.
Get what I'm saying?
It is
Cool.
interesting,
Dig
but
it,
it's
dig it.
That come from a trip though. So,
Yeah, hell yes.
but no, I've always felt that way, like a gridded membrane around. And I feel like too that we underestimate our size. So we feel like the universe is so entire, just huge, and we're this very small thing. And I think that that's only perception. It's your perception of the universe. Now, somebody else who's looking at it and comparing the two would be like, you're a fucking idiot, which I would agree with them for sure. But I think it's all on perception. Everything's perception and your definition of what is to be.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Hell
And I think
yes.
too many people base what they believe on books or what they've read on the internet, and not enough people look within. I think
Right.
we have.
But they do. They do. Everyone has a cognitive bias.
Yeah.
Everyone
Even-
has a cognitive bias, and they have things that they think about and they believe. And no matter what science will tell them, no matter
They
what
don't
they will
care.
do,
Yeah.
they don't care.
Christians.
See, science don't know.
No, not just everyone blames the Christians, but
Forget
that's a
about
big
the Muslims and the Jews.
no.
They're stupid too.
Here we go.
No. Okay.
Yeah,
First of
shit.
all, I don't want to say that because A, this will be on record forever, and you should know
Yes.
better. And B, you got to realize that think about people who don't want to vaccinate their kids because they're afraid of autism.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah, but they just listen to Jenny McCarthy.
no,
so-
they have their own fears because if you give people choice, a lot of them are always going to say no. The problem is
Yeah.
they don't understand it's not about autism, but they see people with autism and they freak out. But what they don't see
My kid will never be a
is smallpox.
Right.
They don't see polio cases. They don't see other things. So in their mind, it's like a giant bunny that would eat people. They've never seen it, so they have no things of fear
Yeah.
of it.
My
And
kid will never
autism
get sick.
isn't as bad as they make it out to be.
When they change the
Oh, it's
definition,
That
crippling.
child is truly,
Crippling
truly
autism.
intelligent. The autistic child is truly intelligent. They process way more information we do, and that's what gives them that what do they call that when they're
Superpower.
standoffish? It's not standoffish. They call it something.
They're not knowing like social cues and stuff like that.
Yeah,
part.
they're just very it's so much information that they shut down pretty much.
but that's not how it is. They redid the definition of autism. The classic
Did they?
definition of autism is someone who's completely gorked out and has an IQ less than 75.
Oh yeah,
Damn.
because they I guess now they say on the spectrum. So there's
Yeah,
a
and most
entire
people
spectrum.
would fall on the spectrum. That's why it's now 1 in 7, which is a bad thing because then if everyone has autism, no one takes it seriously.
It's
There
the new
needs to be
ADHD.
Yeah.
exactly, and ADHD itself was overhyped, and
Yeah.
so was dyslexia.
It was made up.
Yeah.
ADHD
What
was
about,
made up.
What about
No, it's not.
HPV?
I
Is
swear
that
to God,
overhyped?
they the underwriters for the company that made the drug are the ones that put a name on that.
They couldn't
can't
have put a
really
number
test.
at it. ADHD was a medical term since 1923.
We watched the entire thing where they were fucking like,
Say
but see, there goes my
1923?
bias. That's a
Did you
bias.
say
you're talking.
23 or 43?
1923.
23. Remember, I used to work for the organization,
Dude, that's crazy.
and it's
I've
one of
worked a
those
few
things.
places
But
and I
people
don't know
misunderstand them all the time. It's like dyslexia. Oh, you see the numbers and letters backwards. Yeah, you do see the numbers and letters backwards, but you've seen them backwards your entire life, so you still read them the same.
Yeah.
There's
Right.
people with severe dyslexia who can't make any sense of any numbers or anything. And those people are truly screwed.
Oh yeah.
It's the ones that can't read at all.
So if you see the
Oh,
word
yes.
washed, all right, and you have dyslexia, is it always going to look wrong in the same way?
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so then
What if
why-
you write it
interesting.
backwards?
So then
Even-
it seems like people with dyslexia are just making excuses.
No, because here's
like,
the
if
thing.
you learn the word one way, then you're fine.
We
And if
also
it's the
have
same-
terrible handwriting. One of the easiest ways you have it in a piece of paper.
Well, let's just say it's like typed. If it's in a book,
Tell me to write something.
write something.
Oh, good one, Ian. Good one. Score one for you.
No, wait, I thought that's what he really wanted.
Oh,
Yes.
I was genuine.
Yeah, no, if you have all the spacing, for people with dyslexia, the easiest way to tell it in the writing is all the spacing, even between words, is the same as the spacing between
Yeah.
letters,
So it
and
all
it
runs
goes up.
together.
They always write to go up.
Uh-huh.
And it's all about if you can't fix that, then you can't fix certain things in your brain that allows you to read. I couldn't read or speak proper English. I couldn't speak proper English till I was 8, and I couldn't read until I was in middle school.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. Thank you.
But okay, my point is this:
what's your point?
if the
What is it?
disability is constant, and it's like the only way that you've ever seen words, it's like in my head, it's like playing guitar like a guitar that's strung normally, but you're left-handed, so you flip that bitch upside down, and you get used to playing upside down. So if you're reading things and it's not the way the word actually is, instead of seeing washed, you see dewische.
Yeah.
In your head, you just say, "Oh, dewische
Is
means
washed."
washed." So
Yeah.
why wouldn't that translate to every word?
Because
and then
most
they just learn like a new language.
Because most people cannot memorize words that way. It takes a long time to memorize words. It took
Wait,
me a long time.
but why can we memorize them forward? But that fucked up way is...
Because a lot of times you also read things in a way. For example, if I read wash, I might not even look at half the word. I might say that says wish or will, because I just generally glance that.
Yeah.
And that messes things up. It also, if you have low reading comprehension, it doesn't matter if you see the word the same. Because if you read it out loud wrong every time, your teacher's going to be like, screw you.
Well, but then they would say washed. And then you say, oh, yeah, okay, I read that one wrong.
The brain processes more time.
Wait, is it
ones
safe
that-
to assume that if somebody has dyslexia, they're also just generally stupid?
No, to have an actual learning disability,
Well, look at
What a
him. Like, you're
fucking dick.
dyslexic.
No,
Is that
you-
what you're saying?
I am.
Yes.
But you
and
need
look how fucking smart he is.
to have an
look at him.
to have an actual learning disability.
Yeah,
You have to have an IQ at least 120,
right?
and you have to be proficient in most everything else except for what your actual disability is on that. Anyone who has a lower IQ, they interchange the terms now.
Yeah.
It's not how it is, but they're too afraid to use the word MR, which defines anyone under the IQ of 75.
You mean retarded?
Yes.
Okay.
You're not allowed to say that word anymore.
We can say
Mental
whatever the fuck
retardation
we
is
want.
the medical term,
Yeah.
but they don't like saying that.
Fuck them.
Who's them? I want to.
Well, okay, basically,
it.
educational people and doctors are too afraid to confront parents who have
Yeah.
children with actual intellectual disabilities, which is different than learning disabilities,
Right.
is what we're talking about.
Right.
Because how are you supposed to tell someone, to a parent of a 4-year-old, their child's never going to be able to do things useful? They're never going to have a job that's going to be successful for them. They're never going to be a functioning adult.
Say,
They're a
man,
burden.
maybe you should have reconsidered that abortion. 'Cause this kid's gonna be nothing.
This kid's gonna be nuts. That's pretty fucked up. But that's what we had talked about before. That I honestly, if they could tell beforehand, you know, if the kid was gonna come out with Down syndrome or whatever, and was gonna be a burden technically, because you can't. However you spin it, there's no way to spin it that the child's a burden. It doesn't. They can't offer anything to society
Yeah.
except for
There's
a
no
beautiful smile and
positive
mind.
way to- yeah.
Their soul is beautiful. Don't get me wrong. But they have nothing to offer
Mm-hmm.
to society, technically. Okay?
Like they can't wipe their own ass. Like,
Right. So there becomes a
They can
point
wipe
where
others' asses.
That's right.
if we could tell beforehand, before conception, then I'm sure that there's a big percentage of people that would take that abortion.
But you can't.
Why
Because
not?
no matter what you statistically try to prove, you cannot prove it. It's one of the things that annoys me about the current
They
culture.
wouldn't be able to test for it
It's
in utero?
likely.
They
but
can't
not
barely test
guaranteed.
mostly anything in utero. Doctors, I'm going to say this right now, generally don't know what the they're doing in any way, shape, or form.
I thought you were
But
going to say they're retarded.
No, but they don't care. They're just
should've.
average people, just like the rest of us.
Mm-hmm.
To
Come
learn
on, can we at
genetics,
least say they're slightly above average. That way I feel less
No,
terrible.
we wouldn't say that. We'd just say they're harder working at school, you dick.
yes,
I'd like to see a doctor fix my car or my
Yeah.
truck
yeah.
I would
but-
too.
or
You see
wire
those-
up a house.
you see those tests now where people can get tested food-wise and the foods that are bad with them because of their genetic profile. That's all bullshit. All right, do you know how
Yeah.
many human genome pairs there are?
A million.
23.
There are 3 million human genome
Damn it.
pairs, and you
Damn
can't
it.
pinpoint anything down to one genetic pair.
Yeah.
And all the genetic pairs we have are from limited data, and it is generally white males who've been studied in the 1990s. The Human Genome Project didn't expand more than 2% to African Americans and only 18% to women.
Wonderful. That's insane. So
I just find it weird that women are more cooperative than black people.
we're not.
Oh, okay.
It's not, and to be honest with you, most of the samples were taken illegal anyway. See, after 2004, it was in law every baby that is born has their DNA taken and profiled by the U.S. government. President Bush the
I
second
can agree with that.
Bush 2.
did that.
I'm down with that.
No, you shouldn't be down with that.
Why not?
Because one, DNA is not a perfect replica. Neither is fingerprints, and you can base people
I
on
was thinking about
crimes.
crime.
Yeah, you're supposed to do it so it's crime. But if the state can discriminate against that, they can discriminate later against it. Well, this person, as you're talking about, is not going to be good for society. Because once you start, it's always a slippery slope. All right? And the state, if you give it more power, the more it can destroy people. They can murder people and
I think
say
they're
it's in the
already
law.
to that point, though. Aren't
They're
they?
in that. They're
A little way?
mostly in that point, but they can get away with a lot more if you discriminate. We were talking about guns earlier.
Yeah.
All right. And so you're
Yeah.
talking background checks for mentally handicapped people or mentally aggressive people. But where do you draw the line of that? Do people who see
Right.
therapists one time, do you take it away from them? And doesn't that encourage them not to see therapists because you're going to
Right.
profile them?
Yeah.
Just like background
And
checks.
then they're not
Oh,
addressing
well,
their issues and
we're
getting
talking
help
about
that could help them.
a bigger thing. I was saying, like, if they profiled everybody when they came out, if a crime was done, because so many crimes go undone because they're like, well, we have a fingerprint or a DNA that doesn't match it. We just have a profile. So until that guy finally gets caught doing a crime, they can't tell who it belongs to, and
Right.
he gets away with rape or murder or something like that.
The first 5 DNA cases prosecuted in the late 90s, 4 of them were overturned because the DNA was found not to be accurate because they just basically proved of after samples. That means if you two get murdered in this house, all right, and they do a DNA profile because Ian scrapes his hand on something and you were murdered right next to it, well, we must have the DNA. They're going to go arrest Ian based on that information.
Right.
And then he's going to go to jail the rest of his life, even though he was already in jail for the murder before that.
I wouldn't go to jail for the rest of my life. I'd probably get 4 years.
Whatever.
Well,
You're
no.
going
For what?
away
Murder for-
forever.
I feel like if you could prove that it was like out of passion, like a murder, or like a passion,
Yeah.
or
That
what's
makes
the
it,
other one?
that makes it worse. Premeditation murder versus manslaughter.
No, like right after, like crime of
say,
passion when you're in the
like,
moment, like he just
say
got
he was
overwhelmed.
married and I killed his wife and that upset him, so he killed me. Like, he probably wouldn't be punished as harshly because he was emotionally upset because his wife was murdered.
Ooh, let's say I find out that like that happens, and then I find out and I'm at my house and I drive over here. Is that then premeditation?
Yes.
Or is
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You decided to drive over here.
So
But what if I
no
didn't
killing
plan-
people, Ian.
But what if I didn't plan to murder her?
No.
You could.
Well, why
you
were you
might be
coming
able to.
over?
Yeah.
I just wanted to talk.
Get a good lawyer, Ian.
Yeah. Just say
And
yeah.
if
You
they
might be
then-
able to find a way around it.
Yeah.
Of course, you can find
I was
a way
thinking
around
they
it.
probably wouldn't believe me. I didn't plan to
Not
murder
now.
her. Oh, yes, I believe him.
Yeah.
Reduce the sentence.
I think then it would really just, good calling to take pictures. But
Stick
then
out.
you would just need a good lawyer because it depends on how they argue it.
I'd want to get that lawyer guy from the Legal Eagle YouTube channel
Legal
thing.
Eagle.
That guy's cool.
I'm fluent in bird law.
I recommend
He addressed
Lambertus
that.
or Romines in Louisville if it happens. Just
Hell yes.
Are they the guys that have Master P on their commercial?
Absolutely.
actually, Romine is the guy of Master P.
Yes.
Shut the fuck up. That's insane. Nope.
Well,
Oh my god.
Master
Oh,
P, if you're out there, give us a call.
So I
We'd like
wanted to
talk.
ask. Well, yeah, call us Master P. Holla. Oh, that's
Master
off
P.
completely.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So talking about genetics and stuff. I think it was last week we talked about CRISPR. Tell me your thoughts on that.
Well, CRISPR is the basic system, and you can modulate DNA, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong with it.
Hell yeah.
There's no oversight over it, which will scare the hell out of everyone.
Right?
Think of the Australian cane toad, which is famous. It was something that was shipped over there to help with mice populations, and that did not go well. If you genetically engineer something and then you let it loose because you're lazy, or it gets out because you don't contain it well, it's like the python invasion, but now you have something that has no predators because you made it 4 times the size.
The proper ethical decision is to contain it in a cage or kill it.
Yeah.
Don't let it free.
Yeah, for example,
Make
if
it
I
a
was
pet.
going to bring back things like the cave lions in Europe, which we have complete skeletons and even ones with fur on it. And we could modulate the DNA, which is easier than woolly mammoth. I don't know why we care so much about the DNA of woolly mammoth.
Because they're fucking cool.
No, they're not.
How dare you, sir? Defend your statement.
I
It's
defend
What about-
myself
fucking elephant.
What about Bigfoot?
because we wiped them out on purpose.
They were fucking aggressive and they needed to go.
Why has nobody found Bigfoot yet? So we can take a
We found Bigfoot,
DNA
just nobody
profile.
believes
Dino
us.
profile.
Man, I can't get nothing out today.
You're
This is-
struggling.
Okay, let me ask
I don't know
you:
what's
if
going on.
you found Prozoic human beings and basically cave-like structures, and they were 10 feet tall,
Yeah.
like a whole group of them, okay, and 3 of them were mummified, and 23 of them were not, okay, and there's just skeletons of them. They're all massively huge human beings. How would you tell the difference if they're actually human beings, or if they would be what you would call Prozoic Bigfoot, if they're still in the hairy phase, and they are carbon dated before they were supposedly come over here to this part of the country, or this part of the world?
Do you have an answer to this?
Yes.
Go
The
on.
answer is,
Yeah.
the answer is, yes, you categorize them as human beings because of the frontal lobe cortex, and because they have simpler hands like we do versus a chimpanzee. On the other hand, archaeologists need to stop misplacing things.
Misplacing. Oh, whoops. I don't
Get
know.
your shovels, Karen.
Where did this
Jesus.
bone come from?
No, a lot of those discoveries you see now, like about dinosaurs, and it's like, in this 1953 fossil, well, why didn't anyone look at this in 1953?
Yeah.
The museums are all backlogs and basements, hundreds of things. This was sent to the museum in Wyoming, and they lost it in 2 years. They were robbed because people wanted to have giant human bones to show a circus.
That's insane.
Who wouldn't want to
I
steal
would steal that
shit?
for
They
sure.
didn't. I mean,
Yeah.
sure.
I
I don't know
stole
what
a lot
I
of
do
things.
with
That
it.
would be a plus for me.
In the Natural History Museum in New York City, they used to have a mummy that you used to put tickets into its mouth and force it down there to walk in. It's a thing you'd come in, and that was like one of the pharaohs. They just brought over from Egypt, and it was like sold from private collection in England.
Accepting tickets. One per.
Yeah.
Stuff it in its mouth.
Yeah, that was an
Enjoy.
attraction. They used to have mummy unwrapping processes and parties, and they used to eat mummies.
Parties, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that believe that dinosaurs and fossils, all that shit, is fake. Did you know that?
It's all
Yeah, they were
fake.
put here by the
And if
Jews
you find
and
if
the
you
devil
if you
to
find
trick us.
someone that believes that, they deserve to be locked up more than anyone else.
Shoot
Hey,
them in
they
the
said it,
face.
man.
Shoot him in the face.
They said
Yeah.
that there was a sort of a bone rush, like the gold rush. You know, all these archaeologists were quote unquote finding bones everywhere.
Yeah,
There was a
we should
huge boom.
Can we start calling
Yeah.
orgies bone rushes?
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's bring up, since we're bringing up orgies.
Yeah.
and
I
other
never said
things,
that.
You
Yeah,
just
you did.
Yeah. Let's go to something that's, a little bit more classy. Female circumcision.
Good
How do
old
you-
circumcision.
How do you feel about that?
Well,
That's a terrible act.
I think it's fucking horrible. I don't think it should
So
be
what-
done, but I don't have a penis, so I don't really get to say.
No, female
No,
circumcision.
female
Oh,
circumcision.
female? Oh, fuck that shit. There is something terribly wrong.
But
Like,
it's
I
cultural
lived through
belief.
mine, but
Yeah.
It's a cultural belief.
That's fine if they want to do that. I feel like if they want to do it, it's a cultural thing. Like the girl that's having it done is like on board, and they're not forced to do it. Cool, because that's what you want to do. But I think it's fucking terrible.
What kind of fucked
it
up
makes
chick
my
would consent to
fucking.
that?
It makes
It's a
my
very
clit
cultural.
hurt.
It's a very. Have you seen the videos of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
No, it's terrible.
Have you seen people who have to gut their own chickens? That's
Yes.
worse.
It
okay?
is actually.
No,
Yeah.
okay. Basically, any of these things are horrible when it comes to thinking about the level of pain they do to these people.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's fine. It's
Other than
don't
the
know.
immense pain, it's okay.
Well,
how would you treat a plague patient? A demonic
them.
plague
Yeah,
patient.
shoot him in
I'd
the
kill 'em.
face.
No,
you
what you
quarantine
do.
them.
No, you quarantine them, but it's not that necessary. What you do is you cut off the pus muscles, and you basically take a hot poker, and you stab him. And if you survive not having a heart attack with that,
Right.
the infection is basically dead at that point.
Oh.
Yeah,
you
but
get to
that's
live.
still
Just
like,
kill 'em.
hey, let's do this horrible shit so that it's better in the future.
Yeah, but we don't have big plague outbreaks. Only 6 to 18 people generally every year get plague in this country.
What horrible shit is
Really? Where the
female
fuck do they
circumcision
get it?
stopping?
Mice, squirrels.
Oh, really?
You know, actually, what happened?
Homeless people, probably.
Yeah, there's a lot of homeless people. It's a big problem, actually. A lot of the diseases in New York City and San Francisco, the homeless people.
Yeah.
It's starting to become a problem here in Louisville. Well, you're not in Louisville, but
Yeah, close enough.
In the Louisville metro.
thanks a
area.
lot, Mayor Greg Fisher. You damn thief.
Fucking Fisher.
Dude,
No.
that's just nuts.
He used to come in and steal shit when I used to work at Walgreens.
That's awesome.
Like nuts?
No,
Or
he
like
used to.
birthday cards.
No, like the first time he did it, he just walked out with a bunch of cold medicine, and the second time he walked out with a whole cart of like coffee makers.
Yeah.
Need a bunch of these coffee makers.
the NyQuil
Don't wanna
mayor.
pay.
Hey, so what do you all think about female circumcision?
It's terrible.
I think it's okay. It's not the worst thing I've seen.
Well, what do they cut off when
No, what they
we
do-
circumcise?
No, what they do is they basically take out part of the uterine lining, and it basically looks like based on how the X chromosome versus the Y chromosome, which is how we're definitely male or female, it basically looks like a little
Traditionally.
penis, basically, and they still cut around where the uvula and other things are. Okay, and then they tie it up, and then it becomes
Cute
four
little bow.
main. No, not.
Put a little bow on it.
And then they stick it back inside, and then it takes 3 days for them to heal on that and stop bleeding, and then that's how it works.
I guess the important thing is if you had a daughter, would you want her circumcised?
Yes.
God damn
Why?
it. Okay, if you were a daughter,
Why?
would you want to be circumcised?
Why?
Yes.
Well, one, so she could be accepted in more cultures and more places, and two, so she would
Sending her
stop
to
complaining.
Ghana?
Stop complaining. So she shut the fuck up, please. You could just cut her tongue out.
No, that's
Way
not.
more humane.
Yeah.
And it
No.
helps everybody.
No.
Hell yeah.
That's not law in most places. So
Oh shit.
But it will be.
only if we lose in a war against certain
dick.
places.
My love, what do you think?
About female, I don't know, man. If the girl wants it, I guess she
Get
can
out of your
have it. But
goddamn
Yeah.
phone.
you shouldn't be forced.
No.
bitch.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah,
No,
I
see,
wouldn't want that.
That's the deal. She would be able to do that in exchange for her getting piercings and tattoos at like a young age. That's it. She wants those. She
I
has
just
to
really
do
want
that.
that My Little Pony on my titty. Take my shit. And make it
I love
goddamn
My Little
sense.
Pony so
I
much.
I wonder what they do with all the baby dick skin because I got
Baby dick
circumcised when I got when I
part
was
of the
young and
feast.
born.
It
I
tastes
wonder
good
what
with
they do with
carrots.
that.
What
Do
they have to do is put it in a
experiment?
biobag containment, and then they have to dispose of it in a
They
bio
keep it.
containment trash. No, they can't.
Somebody keeps it.
Someone
Somebody
does,
eats it.
but they're not allowed to. It's like the placenta. You're not supposed to be able to do it because of
do.
health safety rules, but people do it.
People do it, and then they make a cream out of it, and they rub it all over their bodies.
No, we're
For
not
like
going to
rich
Fight
people.
Club, okay?
So just
Damn rich
rubbing baby
people and
dick
their
skin all over
creams.
them.
see,
Make me young.
that's not how it is. What you do is that's what they do with the aborted babies because there's more high concentration of fat of
Ooh.
that than the apple liposuction areas.
I wonder, there was a doctor in Indiana who, when he died, they went in his house and they found a bunch of aborted babies. I wonder if that's why he had those. Like, was he trying to be young forever? Like, what the fuck was he doing with these baby bits?
Yeah.
Baby bits.
I'd like one in like a glass table. Like it would be cool to have a coffee table
You could
abortion.
put it in a bowling ball.
Yeah, dude, that'd
yeah,
be
dude.
better.
Yeah.
Put a little, build it up in a little resin. Make a little cute little trinket out of it.
Cute little trinket.
Give it a name, win a trophy with it.
That could be in your office. You can make a paperweight. But
Oh,
it's
fuck
it's
yes.
it's
Yeah.
a baby weight.
Yeah, what you do is you put it in a
baby
mason jar.
Baby weight.
You put its head in a mason jar, and then you can it with with some tomatoes from the garden.
Fuck yes.
Couple spices.
Push its face up against the jar real hard so you can see it. It's like,
And you
And
have
then
the tomatoes
then,
facing
and then
out.
you enter that in miscellaneous candy in the state fair.
miscellaneous.
I want to.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you win because the judges knew that doctor.
Damn it.
Want to hear?
badass.
Want to hear a dead baby joke?
Always.
What's the difference between 1 million dead babies and 7 million pounds of hot dogs?
I feel like I used to know the answer to this.
About 3 hours in an industrial grinder.
It's awesome.
I assumed it was going to involve mustard.
My love, do you have anything that you had written down that you wanted to talk about on this podcast?
No, I did,
Fuck what
but
he
I
wants to
think I
talk
left
about.
the book.
Let's talk
open.
about that goddamn article where
Fuck
people
you,
think
I
all
wanted
weird.
to talk to him.
All right,
Oh,
cool,
yeah.
my bad.
No, go ahead.
Now you guys have it out.
Go ahead.
I don't know. You guys should talk.
Your article.
I have nothing.
You said the fucking
Yeah, there was
I'm
that
not talking
article
about
where
it.
like
you
people,
were supposed to read it.
The thing you're all. I read it.
I
I actually
actually
read
just-
this one.
There you go.
Yay.
What's the article?
It's like people. This dude came across the idea that like not everybody has internal monologue. Like they don't
Yeah.
have a voice in their head. Some people just see like images, or they'll see like a physical, like an actual word and shit like in the air. And like some people can't talk to themselves like in their head. Like if they want to have a conversation with themselves, they have to actually verbalize it. Mm-hmm. And that fucked me up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I constantly just like, hey Ian, what's that over there? But some
It
people
was
can't
odd.
do
It's
that.
something I've never thought about before. I mean, a lot of times my shit is just silence. I've said it before. It's fucking cobwebs and tumbleweeds up there. But
Which is
whenever
how you fall asleep so fucking fast.
I know I could fall asleep right now
I think
sitting
about that
here.
every time I go to sleep. That bitch.
And I sleep hard as fuck.
Lucky you.
True.
Hard sleeping lady.
My family, we have all sleeping problems. It's genetic. We have we have frequent fatal insomnia.
It fucking sucks because
And-
sleeping is the best.
Well, I know that, but I have to drug myself with my different amounts of meds, and then I have to take 600 to 800 milligrams, not micrograms, milligrams of melatonin.
Jesus
and
Christ.
And a
50
fistful of horse tranks.
and 50 to 60 grams of valerian root. And now I'm also taking about 4 grams of skullcap.
Damn,
I
that
used-
sucks.
I
What's
use-
that? That sounds interesting.
Skullcap happens to be in the mint family, and it shuts down the gamma waves in your brain. So I used to be on 400 milligrams of Ambien a night, and that would barely get me to sleep, and I'd still have to take a bunch of other things.
Sleeping pills and shit on top of it.
And I still take, a bottle of NyQuil a day.
Hell yeah.
That's insane.
Stay high school loaded.
But going back to the thing, when I do talk to myself, like I hear like I have dialogue in my head.
Yeah.
I wonder because the guy in the article was asking like, how do they read? How do they do anything essentially? What would it be like? I wonder
It's not hard.
genuinely what it would be like if it's nothing up here.
Yeah, if you have nothing
Ever.
up there, then you're not really digging into anything on an intellectual level.
That means
kinda
you're
like,
not thinking.
You're
Yeah,
not thinking,
because I mean, you
yeah,
would see a painting and you wouldn't
Yeah.
even be like, "Oh, it's a painting." You'd just be like,
So it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's not like so it's not just a monologue. They have nothing in their heads.
"Well,
That's kind of what they made it seem
Yeah.
like. They don't speak to themselves.
because I mean, some will have like images and shit. Like instead of like, "Ooh, here's my thought out idea," it's like you'll get an image of it. But then, yeah, some people it's just no, there's nothing up there.
So, like for example, if you read an article and then you remember it forever, and anytime you need to access that file, it just pops up in the head, and you can read all the words in the article.
One in particular actually was kind of like that. But
Yeah,
I feel
that's-
like with the people that don't have the monologue, they would just be reading out loud.
Yeah.
It's tomographical memory.
But that's fucking annoying.
It's not. My parents have it. My mom has it, and she has 4 master's degrees, and she's just wasting those being a teacher.
I
So-
think the difference, like not all of them can like pull up information and like remember everything. It's just the difference of internal monologue and no internal monologue.
Because there was that one person in particular where like they would just remember like specific words that would pop up like into their head. Mm-hmm. Like they would see the images of the word and they would like, well, that's all I remember
What
is
was
the
the-
words that I saw.
What was the demographics of the study that they did in the paper?
It wasn't a study.
There are studies done,
There
but
are
the
studies, but
the
this thing
article
wasn't.
itself was not about it.
I don't read studies.
I definitely
I'll read
have
the
an internal
summary and like the
monologue.
first paragraph
Yeah.
or two, and then I'm like,
Let my husband talk.
Oh, I'm not saying nothing. Though. Yeah. I said what I had to
No, talk, motherfucker.
Constantly, though, I have more than one monologue in my head. Like, I'm constantly talking to myself, and then the things that talk in my mind also have a voice that talk to them. It's almost like they're judging the voice that's talking to them and having an argument while I'm having an argument with both of them. So for people to say that they don't do that, I think some people too are pretentious in that manner. You know what I mean? They don't truly they don't talk to themselves, or they don't think they're talking to themselves, or they'll say that they're not talking to themselves so they don't sound crazy.
Right.
Because you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's another ego move.
I could see that because I mean, it seems really odd that you would have no internal
Nothing.
dialogue.
They
I mean,
do.
Yeah.
even throughout the day, whenever I'm doing stuff, okay, so I'm brushing my teeth. I think, okay, I'm putting toothpaste on my toothbrush, but I still say it's fucking tumbleweed and cobwebs in my head because it's not just constantly going.
Yeah.
Where he's got multiple layers. A lot of times I have no layer.
Like an onion.
Do you
You
play
watching
chess?
brain.
Actually, I do. Yeah, I'm
How
not
many-
good.
How many chess moves do you play ahead?
Oh fuck! I don't play like that.
What
I'm a
about you?
reactionary.
No, I
chess
don't,
player.
man.
And say I've tried to get him to play with me, and we played like half a game, and I was like, no.
I don't. Well, right now I don't have the concentration to do it. But I was always told that you're supposed to think about the last move.
Work backwards?
Work backwards from.
You always gotta see 5-6 moves ahead to
Right.
10 moves ahead, depending on what level you're playing against. But
I've heard
that's-
some people can do 10 moves ahead. That's crazy. To
some
me.
people can do 75 moves ahead, and I can never beat them, and I hate that.
That's intense.
But-
Yeah,
I
that's
would,
pretty impressive. I could
I
see not
would-
beating that.
yeah.
Well,
I
the
would
mo-
love to be able to play like that. If I had someone
You
to play
need-
constantly.
You need. I mean, he can probably do it. He can probably do 5-6 moves ahead because that's internal dialogue.
Yeah.
That's. I can only do 28 moves ahead.
One voice takes three moves, and the other voice takes the next three.
Hell yeah! You just divvy it out, my love.
Hey man, talk to me, guys.
Oh, come on. Talk to me. No, that's yeah.
I was
I
gonna
wanna-
say, where are you tonight? You're very quiet.
I want to
Oh,
have
nothing.
people playing chess and like checkers. Like one side takes
Every
the
time
chess
I ask
pieces.
him a question, you talk.
Yeah, one side has the chess pieces and the other has like the checkers pieces, and then it's like, all right, you're playing checkers rules, I'm playing chess rules.
It's called
And then-
Molly chess.
That's
Look,
a thing.
it's already a thing.
God damn it!
Yeah, there's gambling in all kinds of chess. That's where the money's at. So
It's awesome.
I was at the highest chess team. It was a high school chess team, but it was the highest, even higher than the U.S. national team.
Yeah.
And I was in the very bottom, like 5th place, and I never got above 2,200 ranking.
Jesus.
Well,
Oh
the
my
higher number,
God.
the higher ranking is. So 20 mid-master is like 2,200. Regular master chess is 2,000. 2,300 is grandmaster, and 2,600 is alpha master. And those are freaks of nature.
Yeah.
And those are the people who see 75 moves ahead, and you're like, I hate you.
But the question is, are they only good at chess and doing that at chess, or can they do that throughout all portions of their life?
everything.
John Rule and Andrew Bishop, who are the top 2 seeds. One was an offensive player, which was Andrew Bishop, and then John Rule was a defensive player. They could both do that. John Rule plays as an engineer. He got to MIT and he got his degree there, and he is an engineer and he can plan out everything. Doesn't even need to write it down.
Damn it, man.
Andrew
Dude, that
Bishop
was
is dead.
cool.
So
Aw.
I feel like I could be smart, but I don't have a direction as far as that goes. Like, I want to do everything, but I also want to do nothing. So I think it's a directional thing. I want to be very proficient at a lot of things, but I don't. I get too caught up on where do you start, and then I get too focused on where you start, and then I never start. So
Well, and I feel like whenever you read or you do something, it gets you, because your brain's always going, it gets you thinking about other things, and you're like, oh, okay, cool, I'd like to know about this. So then you'll move to that, and okay, well, I'm going to read or do this, and then
Yeah,
you're
it's
like,
too many
oh, well, this made
movements.
me think about this, so I'm going to go and
I think I
and
need
it's
to work on focus. That's what we've been meditating, and I'm trying to work on focus instead of, you know what I mean? Because I have a terrible with focus. I think if you can match focus, direction, and a starting point, I think you can get somewhere.
But you're really good at all kinds of shit, though.
Are you going to meditate? Wouldn't you meditate? What kind of meditation do you do? Energy manipulation or blank pause breathing?
That's
Blank
what I
pause
do,
breathing, yeah.
Okay. What
How
you
do you
need
do energy manipulation?
Yeah, what's that about?
Okay, basically it's you do stop and breathing, and your mind's completely blank, but you turn off all parts of your mind except that basically you have to feel the kinetic energy for your nerve system, and you try to move it through your body.
Oh,
You
that's
know.
awesome.
And you can do that, and then you'll feel like warmer if you do it in like one hand. It goes through your legs and goes to
Yeah.
your hand,
Yeah.
then the rest of your body.
Dude, that is really cool. I'd like to do that.
Sounds like what Wim Hof does
Yeah.
change his body temperature.
Fuck yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's something that we should do that.
Yeah.
Or try anyway. Not like we're just experts now, but like
Right.
we should
No,
incorporate that.
Dive in at the master level.
Dive in.
Turn you up.
The Buddhists. Oh.
Yeah.
It's like the Buddhists say, and the Taoist is that you can always try. You'll never attain anything, but you can always try to attain everything. That's one way to look at it. Like you can try to be good at it or manipulate it the best you can, but you'll never actually reach a point that you're you know what I mean? You never
Yeah.
be proficient at meditation or manipulating your own energy. It's a work in progress, like a lifelong
Hell
progress.
yeah.
But you just gotta be obsessive compulsive. The only reason I'm good at anything is because I get it on an obsessive compulsive whim, and then I go all the way into it until the point where I'm one of the top 3 experts, and then I get bored.
That's
Oh,
we were talking about or watching a video that they were saying that you have to become obsessive, you have to match your mental with your spiritual, with your your emotional spiritual self has to be in tune with where you want to go mentally, and then from that point when you can create a vision and become obsessed with that one vision, that you'll obtain it. Like
Yeah.
there's no way you can't. Like that's the law.
Then
Whatever.
you're all matched
Universal
up
law.
and doing it.
Yeah.
Hell yes.
It's just matching your mental with your emotional. Because if your emotions are somewhere else,
Right.
worried about something else, then your mental can't process what you're doing
Yeah, 'cause
physically.
then your mental's going to that shit.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm obsessive compulsive, and my emotions, I don't process them very well.
Maybe you tune all your emotions towards the things you become compulsive at. Maybe you do it without thinking. You know what I
Ooh,
mean?
Yeah. That's
Maybe
right.
it's just something that's part of your being. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Becoming compulsive is becoming emotional towards that one thing. That's the only emotion you have. Or that's where all the emotions go.
Hell yeah.
But-
I can see that. I don't know that having to process your emotions would really impact that. I mean, if you just completely just ignore them altogether, like then hell yeah,
I have
'cause then
no emotion.
then you're not run by emotions. You're just not paying attention to them.
And then you're run by logic, and then you have, emotional episodes that turn out to be seizures.
yeah,
So.
it could be. You never know, dude.
Sounds like an alright trade.
Process your fucking emotions and you'll be fine.
So I was reading a book. When you think of the women's suffrage movement, right? What name pops into your head?
Bill Clinton.
David Bowie.
What the fuck is happening?
Most people would say Susan B. Anthony.
I didn't see nothing popped
Why
into
would
mind.
you? Why would you pick her?
She was the lead in that movement, the women's
whole lot of
suffrage
money.
movement.
But she screwed up this country tax system forever. The reason we have
So
all
was
these
she
tax.
still the leader of it?
Yeah, but
Leader of the pack.
You're still supposed to think of her, God
Yes.
damn it.
the
Yeah.
reason we had the temperance movement is partially because of her. The reason
Oh,
we
yeah,
had
that was
alcohol
abortion.
banned was because of her.
God, that
and we had
trifling bitch.
95% of the United States revenue came from tax on liquor. They
Yeah.
could no longer tax because we had no more liquor. That's why we had an income tax and property tax. It's her fault.
Oh, that bitch. Let's dig her up and just murder her.
No, you can't. She
Again.
was cremated a couple of years ago on accident by some students, maybe.
Let's pee in the ashes.
Pea in the ashes.
Where are you going to find them in someone's house in Louisville?
Probably
Wherever
on-
they are.
Yeah. Probably
Gotta
above the
find 'em.
fireplace.
I got him under the house, yo.
Yeah.
What book was it that brought that up?
Oh, it was just originals, but they were. It was that horizontal hostility that we were talking about.
Yeah.
That there was actually 3 women that were movers in that, and I put them down: Lucy Stone, Sadie Staten, and Susan B. Anthony. And but they never did. It took them years and years and years to come together in the temperance movement and the suffrage movement, to mesh them together to actually make change. So for years they fought because 2 of them, not Susan B. Anthony, the other 2, were radicals. So they wanted to shut they didn't even agree with blacks. They thought blacks shouldn't have rights until women had rights.
That's
they were
fucking stupid.
They weren't fighting for the overall image of everybody should have rights.
Themselves.
They were like, women, until women get the rights, black people can't. But Susan B. Anthony had an open mind. Well, it's called horizontal hostility, where that black lady that became, and I had it down, motherfucker. Student association.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that's what she became.
Motherfucker.
Now we
The
call
lady
her
that
mother.
became the president of the student association, she was looked at as bad and talked about because she wasn't black enough. So she was light skinned, and the black students were like, "No, we need a blacker leader, so our point gets across more."
Yeah.
There was another one on that horizontal, the Miss America. That was deaf. They had a Miss America that won, and she was deaf, but she would speak with her voice and not sign. So the deaf people in the audience they looked at her in a bad light and talked shit about her
You're not one of us.
because she was not deaf enough,
Yeah.
wasn't deaf enough. But it was just talking about, I think, that we could move faster if we were all on the same page and there weren't as many radicals spread out in these groups if we worked together
I
to do that.
disagree.
And stop fucking
Slip-
nitpicking on that.
Slippery slope argument works because we are nitpicking the argument. You try to get the most acceptable to the most people, and that's how you get laws and protections done. Because we're a nation of protecting minorities. That is what we are. That is what we were founded to do. That's why we're a nation of laws. But everyone wants special treatment. Everyone wants to feel special. So when you get the mainstream people and the minorities that are starting out, you give them more rights, and the more rights they have, they ask for more and more and more and more. Think of the FAIR initiative, okay? When it comes to you can't discriminate against sexual orientation, and you can't be fired from that. But what that doesn't do, and people don't realize this, is that actually hurts homosexuals who apply for jobs more than anything else, because they can also not hire them knowing they can't fire them. Because why would you hire someone
That you can't fire.
You can't fire.
Yeah.
They could be horrible at their job. You don't want to take that risk. Most people are lazy.
So it's like the idea with the Me Too movement and shit, where business executive dudes are less inclined to have women surrounding them
Yes.
because they're like, oh, I don't want to have this come up. So they're like, oh, we'll just cut them out.
Yeah, and all of those things, it's all about money, okay? That's what I can believe some people can get away with 1 or 2 horrible rapist things before they get
Rapist
caught.
things.
Yeah.
No, before they get caught.
Yeah.
But somehow, if anyone's money or power, it's not just 1 or 2 people. It's 1 or 2 people, and then when people get on the bandwagon, you have hundreds of people, and half those people can't even corroborate their story because they never met the person.
Yeah.
Like Sandusky. He's a horrible human being. But 60 of those people who came forward
Yeah.
didn't even meet him.
Yeah.
All right?
There's that kind of thing.
And most of the time, you get that. Bill Cosby did all these horrible things. But it was, he got away with how many years before someone did anything about it?
30.
30.
Yeah.
How horrible was it, though, in retrospect?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Bill
Okay.
Cosby, and they weren't conscious, so it couldn't be that
Oh,
bad.
yeah. The one that gets me, right, is when, get mad at me if you want, but when women in the acting business choose to do sexual favors for a leg up in the game or a certain role, if they have agreed to it, whether they feel pressure or not, if they agree to it, that should be all that matters. You can't come back 20
You said, yes, I'll
years.
suck your dick if you give me this
Oh,
role.
they pressured me into it. Well, you could have said no, though.
Yeah.
And I know it's rough. I get that. But you could have said no.
I'm who hasn't
Suck the dick for a roll.
Right, no.
bread
Why
roll.
can't I think of the fucking word? Like, people regret decisions all the time.
All the time.
I have personally slept with people voluntarily and regret it to this day. But I can't go back and say that dude raped me.
Yeah.
And I would never do that. And I
not a-
wouldn't
you're
do
not
it
a
if,
shithead.
if they were famous either.
We
so
don't
There's a
talk
lot of
about
people
what
that
you and
would.
Ian did when you were younger.
There's a lot of people that go
Thankfully,
back
my
and
memory's
they feel so bad. There's a lot of people that are locked up right now that they had sex with, say, a 16-year-old or 17, had consent.
Yeah.
And
The
or the
parents.
even for that matter, a girl that is of age will be under her parents' roof. She has sex with this guy. The parents don't like it, or she feels guilty to the parents, and then she says, "Well, he raped me."
Yeah.
And in the state of Kentucky, at least I know, for being a Commonwealth, they are on the woman's side no matter what.
he's getting locked
Yeah.
up
He's getting
until
locked
they
up.
investigate
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah.
And even if they investigate it, they don't care.
They
Yeah, they
don't.
don't
It's
care.
still her word.
And
always.
they don't investigate everything either. One of the people who was on the board of LDA, his name was Steve Noble. His brother was in jail for a robbery that ended up with a liquor store owner being shot to death because someone pointed it out to get a plea deal on that. The guy's brother wasn't even in Kentucky for like 5 years after that.
Yeah.
That happens
All right.
a whole lot too.
And he was
yeah.
in jail for 8 years,
Yeah.
waiting on trial for that.
God,
Before a
that's
judge could throw
insane.
that out.
Yeah, see, that's the thing that people don't understand is when you get locked up for something like that, when they're investigating, most people can't bond themselves out of a
No.
$500,000 bond.
Or even a $500 bond.
Right.
for that matter, yeah.
I was in jail for a couple days, and one of the people in there, you'd see in court, he had a $500 bail, and he'd been in jail for 2 years for a drunk driving incident.
I tell you, man, I
It's
was
crap.
locked up. I had a $500 bond. I had a bank account full of money. I had a car that could have been sold, and I made a person in my life at the time a lot of money. That person took off with the money that I made, and I fucking ran because
Yep.
they thought they were going to get in trouble. And then I sat in jail forever because nobody wanted to put up my own money for me.
Yeah.
They
Which
were
is
just like-
ridiculous.
Yeah. And not only that, the person I was with at the time overdrew bank accounts and left me and fucking, you know, and she was a wife.
Yeah.
Like, you
and
know.
just completely fucked you. So then you get out and you like owe money places.
Yeah. I was in jail for 18 months because I couldn't come up with $500.
You know whose fault that is, though?
Mine.
No, Pete Carroll. Governor Pete Carroll got away and got rid of bail bondsmen in Kentucky.
Oh, yeah. We don't have that.
Yeah, and it's his fault, and God rest his soul, even though he refuses to die. He looked old when he was governor in the 70s, okay? He's still there.
Perpetually old.
Yeah, so
I don't-
Damn his soul.
Shit's just silly to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some
I
petty
don't
shit.
get the whole locking people up and then okay, we'll just wait until you can see a judge to prove that you haven't done
that's what it
anything
is,
wrong.
man.
that's what the Fourth Amendment does. It's supposed to be speedy trial process, but
If you speed it, though,
But speedy isn't the actual thing. You see those court cases, or you know, in a show, and it's like, well, you're gonna go speak, and you the cop person's only been a cop for a year.
Yeah.
They're not going to an actual trial.
No.
no. And that speedy, I know when I was in Indiana, the speedy trial meant that you were pleading guilty, whether you were or not. You were pleading guilty pretty much because they were going to give you the maximum on it because you wanted a fast and speedy trial.
Right.
They waived all of that and then just gave you the maximum and sent you on your way.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't have that, you would sit, because Indiana, they pretty much make up their own rules, man. And you would sit there for 3 months before you ever went to the first, because the lawyers would go to like arraignment
Yeah.
and then your first pre-trial and all that shit. They wouldn't take you. So 3 months later, you finally get seen. If you can't bond out, that's a
You're
long
fucked.
time.
And they
Yes,
have a
it is.
really messed up bond system. I mean, they in
Oh,
Kentucky,
there is, yeah.
they just arbitrarily pick a bond. In Indiana, you have the same bond if you get pulled over for drunk driving
Yeah.
as if you have
Yep.
a kilo of meth in your car.
Yeah.
Or if you kill someone, it's still a $5,000 bond, no matter what happens.
Stealing a 25-cent pack of gum
Yeah.
is the same D felony as stealing $600,000 worth of equipment.
Yep.
It's
So
the
the
same
lesson
fucking
here
thing.
is if you're gonna commit a crime, do it big.
Fucking yeah.
And do it
in Indiana.
And don't do it in
Yeah.
Indiana.
Yeah. Yeah.
And don't cross the bridge, because then you have more felonies. Yeah.
More felonies.
Oh yeah. It's fucking silly.
But if
yeah.
you can make it to Ohio, there are no laws.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
man.
Unless you got something else.
Yeah,
No.
I gotta get going, guys.
Yeah. Well, that was another episode of Wildly Uninteresting. That was number
44.
44.
Quattro,
44.
quattro.
We
Barack
Quattro.
Obama of episodes.
The Barack Obama. Thank you all for enjoying the episode. Like, share, subscribe. Hit us up, cuz.
Yeah, yeah. Tell your friends to listen.
Wildly Uninteresting podcast.